Fuck you, Land Rover. Red suspension error fault. What do? That means it's below the bump stop. It won't power up. I don't have a gap tool. You can't do it. You need the computer. Blah, blah, blah. What do? Welcome back to the Addicted Motors YouTube channel. We're not going to have too much of an intro today. What I'm going to do is we're going to swap out the rear pads and rotors and the rear air valve for the actuation of the rear suspension. I've been putting off rear pads and rotors for a while because who cares about rear pads and rotors? And I've got one issue with the rear air valve. I think that's what it is, that when it goes to access height or I open and close tailgate a few times, it self-levels. And I don't think the flaps or whatever the valves in there close back up correctly, which is kind of annoying. So sometimes the rear end will sink down overnight, especially when it's cold. So try to knock those out pretty quickly today. I don't really want to mess around too much with it, so let's get to it. Alright, so here's everything I need. I got some pads and rotors from FCP Euro, decent deal. You know, probably decent quality stuff as well. And I have this is the old one. I have a new one in the back of the truck that I bought from Amazon. It's fairly cheap. I'm sure it's not as good as OEM, but it'll do for my purposes. So we're gonna do the valve block first. It's just sitting right there. Probably not too easy to get to, but not too hard to get to either. Going to pull the grommets out from the side of the air shock holster. Then we're gonna unplug the little connector, and then each of the two little wires on this side. So where I'm at is I've got the bottom hose off. So that's the one. It's the one that sits directly on the bottom, and I've got the top one on the back off. Now I'm gonna get the other one. Now what you're gonna run into here is some guys said going through the tire carrier, like going under there. That would probably be fine. I've kind of moved some of these brake lines out of the way and tilted the whole unit down like this. There's just no room to get back in there with your hand. So, which is why honestly I've kind of held off doing this. It's such a pain in the ass. So one more airline remove. I don't know how I'm gonna get them back on, but hopefully it'll go on a little easier than they're coming off, because right now I'm not having fun. This is not a fun job, hence why I've been putting it off. All right, so here's the new piece. It comes with these little brass fittings already attached, but I want to use the old hardware. So it's going to be the black hose on the bottom, the green hose above that, and then the bottom one will be on the bottom. That'll go in last, I think. So we're going to go ahead and try to get this figured out. I'm going to take this old hardware off. I think that, is this a 12? Is this a 12? Yeah, 12 millimeter spanner that I'm using. I would suggest picking up a smaller one. It's not as long. I think that would definitely help in this endeavor. So those are the old pieces going off, and then we're gonna get the new ones bolted up here in a little bit. The front one is much easier. This sucks. I don't like this at all. This isn't fun. All right, so the two back hoses are in. The black hose, the nut just doesn't spin very well on it, so it's really hard to spin it on, at least get the initial threads on. The orange hose, a little bit slicker, a little bit thinner, was able to get that one on. Not so bad, so we got those snugged up pretty good. So we're just gonna get that last one, and then we should be pretty good to go. Connect the connector, and oh man, this sucks. This is it's just not a good angle. I've watched all the videos, there's other ways to do it, but there's no two ways to go about it. You have to have different tools. I don't know, it's not a fun one. It just takes time. So someone didn't have the right tool for brakes. Now I've got the right tools for brakes. You need 12-point deep socket sound, 300 drive, whatever these little ones are that have all the little jiggers on it. So back to brakes. That's how you do brakes. I forgot though that my got no air in her, so I gotta pump that back up, sitting on my jack. See if she'll power herself back up. Yeah, close all this. That would have been a good bit to remember. Longitude. Raise. But rear brakes, super easy. How to get some tools, whatever. Now I have them, won't be an issue from now on. I hear the pump kicking on, so she should be up. I'm not gonna show you how to do the other side, but I am going to do a test, obviously, where we let this thing sit overnight, or at least a couple nights, at a weird angle like it was when it was failing, and see if that valve block did the trick. Fuck you, Land Rover. Red suspension error fault. What do you do? That means it's below the bump stop. It won't power up. I don't have a gap tool. You can't do it. You need the computer. Blah, blah, blah. What do? Get a jack. I jack it up past the bump stop height thing via the fucking trailer hitch. Suspension fault cleared. Got the air compressor kicking on now. Good to go. Let's see if she'll air all the way back up. I think I'm a genius. I mean, that's a huge fix. I mean, I don't have a gap tool. The shop has a diag tool that has to hook to the battery and do all this other bullshit. And I was just like, there has to be a better way. Can't really get a jack under the truck because it was sitting so low. You got a trailer hitch, guys. Jack it up. Let the compressor kick on. The compressor was empty, probably from me doing, obviously, the valve block. So now it's gonna think about its life, pump itself up, hopefully. Make sure I don't have a huge leak. And in theory, I'll be good to go. Fuck you, Land Rover. Red suspension error fault. What do? That means it's below the bump stop. It won't power up. I don't have a gap tool. You can't do it. You need the computer. Blah, blah, blah. What do? Well, get a jack. I jack it up past the bump stop height thing via the fucking trailer hitch. Suspension fault cleared. Got the air compressor kicking on now. Good to go. Let's see if she'll air all the way back up. I think I'm a genius. I mean, that's a huge fix. I mean, I don't have a gap tool. The shop has a diag tool that has to hook to the battery and do all this other bullshit. And I was just like, there has to be a better way. Can't really get a jack under the truck because it was sitting so low. You got a trailer hitch, guys. Jack it up. let the compressor kick on. The compressor was empty, probably from me doing, obviously, the valve block. So now it's gonna think about its life, pump itself up, hopefully. Fuck you, Land Rover. Red suspension error fault. What do? That means just blow the bump stop. It won't power up. I don't have a gap tool. You can't do it. You need the computer. Blah, blah, blah. What do? Well, get a jack. I jack it up past the bump stop height thing via the fucking trailer hitch. Suspension fault cleared. Got the air compressor kicking on now. Good to go. Let's see if she'll air all the way back up. I think I'm a genius. I mean, that's a huge fix. I mean, I don't have a gap tool. The shop has a diag tool that had to hook to the battery and do all this other bullshit. And I was just like, there has to be a better way. Can't really get a jack under the truck because it was sitting so low. You got a trailer hitch, guys. Jack it up. Let the compressor kick on. The compressor was, and she's going up on her own accord. Let's make sure this is all the way up before I get too excited here. But I think I think I'm a genius. That's funny. All right, here's dropped a couple pictures of what it looked like last night when I woke up. Looks like I still have a problem and it might be worse now. So there's a leak somewhere. The right side, passenger side, was pretty much all the way deflated. The driver's side was probably fine, but that's probably, it's usually not one side or the other. So that's where it's got me thinking that there's still an issue with the block or something. So I'm gonna go try to tighten up some of those connections some more, but I don't know if that's gonna be it. I wonder if me lifting it up and down might have damaged one of the rear bags. I sprayed it with some water. I don't see any obvious leakage from that side. So just gonna test these connections again. Hopefully it's one of them. I don't know. We'll check back. So I'm gonna try something, see if this is electronic or an actual leak, electronic issue or a leak. I unplugged the valve block itself. We're just gonna let it sit unplugged. I don't know if that is gonna actually control things or not, but we'll find out. Maybe it has some issues with one of the height sensors and it's just adjusting weird, because this side just keeps dropping. I don't see any visible leaks. Not that I'd really see them, but I don't know. Just doing easy stuff first before I go medieval on it again. Love Land Rovers. Love them. All right, so she's been in high mode for about 4 hours. I can already see it kind of listing a little bit to the right. Let's confirm that with our off-road mode. Hopefully, diagonally feared adjusting itself before it kicks in. Yeah, see? So I'm still losing air on that back bag. Now, what I need to figure out though is that losing air from the valve block that I just replaced, which is the only change I've made, or during the process of replacing the valve block, jacking the car up and down, did I somehow disrupt the original, over 18 years, very old airbag in the back. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I don't, the compressor's not kicking on because I've lost a lot of air from the ballast tank. So that's interesting. It's leaking, but it's not leaking like very substantially, where the compressor has to kick on to compensate. And I am in high mode as well. So I'm gonna leave it like it is overnight. Then we'll pull the wheel off in the morning. All right, so here's the overnight test. Looks good on this side. Still leaking on the passenger side. That sucks. That's annoying. So it's either the bag or the line going to that side that we've got an issue with. It's just always something. All right, so what I did is I pulled out the bottommost hose, which is the one that loops to the right bag, and I reinstall it with a different fitting. I don't think that's going to fix the issue. but I'm out of ideas. I'm also not doing a great job filming this because I'm literally trying to work my own car in my driveway, and it's just, this isn't a video for fun. This is a video of necessity, which happens when, you know, these things happen. Most like the lot of my other videos, I don't really put it on a show. This is just stuff that happens happens normally, unfortunately, which is kind of the whole point of this channel. So kind of just getting a rear view or a real view snapshot into what I have to deal with when during the ownership of these old vehicles. So it's been about an hour of it sitting like this. So, you know, let's see where it does. All right, so I've left all the tools here, and it's been 5 hours, and let's check the problem side. It's still up. Look at that. Interesting. So I'm not gonna say it's completely fixed. Like I just mentioned, all I did was pull that downward facing line out and just reconnect it a little bit better. It was tight, so I'm not sure what the issue was. And it's holding, which is awesome. Seeing how I was going down the road of thinking that I needed some new air struts or I cut the line. I don't know. You go through the motions, right, of potentially screwing something up when you're doing some DIY stuff. So the next test, I'm going to move it down on an incline here. Figure out if it's maybe a self-leveling problem. Maybe it likes being on this level, more level ground right now. I don't know. So I want to be as thorough as I can before I go putting everything away and calling it a win. And so we will see. Another news, I put mud flaps back on the Classic because I like mud flaps. Actually, I got them for the front and I didn't really feel like putting them on the front, so they on the back now. Yeah, so that's what you want to see. Now that's good. I don't fully trust it yet. I'm gonna let it sit here for a couple days to kind of replicate the problem I was having before, because again, the problem I was having before was, I'm assuming, valve block related, because the entire rear would, on an incline or when it wasn't parked perfectly straight, would slowly start sinking down in colder weather. Warmer weather, it didn't do it. So very, very odd, but kind of typical Land Rover air suspension stuff. So now we're gonna do some more testing. So it is nighttime, and it's probably been 10 hours of sitting, and it's still good. It's holding pressure, and I think I'm gonna call that a win unless something happens crazy over the next, 12 or so additional hours. I think I've got it sorted. I think that line was just loose. It would have been the O-ring. There's this little cup that on the piece that grabs the plastic line that could have been slightly loose. Who knows? But it's holding, and I'm happy. The mud flaps on the Classic look good. Just took it for a spin. I mean, that's a double win there. So we got brakes, rear brakes, pads, rotors, sensor, air block, and then mud flaps. But I have some. Oh yeah, baby. Got my sheepskins back on. And well, they're not really secured, but they're on, and now it's all class in the cabin here, kids. Class. And yeah, I think that's gonna kill it for this video. Appreciate you watching. Kind of a choppy video, but hey, I'm out here just doing DIY stuff, so that's how it is sometimes. I just need to get my stuff fixed and I'm good to go. Hope you like the Rover content. Truck's looking good tonight. Catch you in the next one.